perfectionism is paralyzing. Sometimes success, depending on how you look at it, could be a little bit of a curse because you put so much pressure on your life.
Having boundaries there is also important because you can be a very high performer and work smart. You don't have to be addicted to your job. You don't have to wear it, when you come home at night. We have to keep things in perspective.
Your career now, going from cybersecurity to coaching and helping other people.
The 27 years in cybersecurity was a life of its own, quite frankly. And to start with some of the leaders that I was fortunate to work for. These gentlemen.
Welcome to another Million Miles, your personal lifestyle concierge with credibility. I'm Danielle Kiesling, and in each episode, I connect you with unparalleled access to authentic, credible voices from across the entire world of beauty, wellness, fashion, travel, and mindset. Friends, you are listening to another episode of Another Million Miles, this creative space where we unlock strength, resilience, and real talk on mindset and transformation. Today, I'm here joined by Kenny Stoddart. Is that how I pronounce it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kenny Stoddart. Yep. Thank you.
Someone who lives and breathes the very grit and growth that you have pretty much heard me speak about in a lot of these podcasts. So in this episode, we're going to kind of dive deep into mindset, discipline, and the power of pushing through beyond limits that we even sometimes know that exists or know that we can. So if you're ready for this challenge, what you believe is possible, and to build your inner strength, you're in the right place. And I just want to jump into it. So thank you, Kenny, so much for taking the time to come on and speak to our listeners. You have an incredible story.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, that you are not alone piece really touches, because that was one of the breaking points that helped me in my transformation, if you will. And really at one of the most critical points when I finally said that I needed help and went to recovery. That's when I realized that I wasn't alone, and that I wasn't the first person that had troubles controlling alcohol, for example. I wasn't the first one that was struggling with identity. I wasn't alone in trying to overcome this and be a better person. So that part I really resonates with me, because for so many years, when I talk about wearing this cape because I wanted everything to look and appear like it was great on the outside, I was alone, right? And then truly one of the greatest pieces of my transformation is realizing that there are ways to get through some of the challenges that I was facing. And I use that now in everyday life with challenges that all of us face, because adversity is always knocking down our door, as you know as well. So yeah, that's a great place to start. And I love that you are not alone, because we are not. And that's why we're here as well, podcasting, because we want people to be able to listen and not feel overwhelmed or whatever, and just take it all in.
Yeah. So give me a little bit of background for the listeners. Like, what did you do? Where did you start in your career? And paint the picture of like what you were doing, and like how what you were doing started creating challenges, and what happened with your
So I my picture goes like this. I was born and raised in a little town outside of Buffalo, New York, called Hamburg, New York. Just an incredible place to be from, right on the mouth of Lake Erie, where it goes in Niagara Falls. Honestly, one of the coldest places on the planet. I'm probably wrong about that, but tons of snow. Everything that you know about Buffalo, that's where I grew up, and I loved it. Some of my dearest friends, most of my friends are still Buffalonians, and we talk about it all the time, about some of the grit and grace that I gathered from those days growing up there. But, my picture, I was a hockey player. I was outgoing, friendly, wanted to be a great athlete. And my picture, or my story, really started there. After my junior year in high school, I was expelled for various different reasons, being class clown, not really one major event, but the impact that it had on me would take years to really uncover, because I went on from that point to really struggling with embarrassment and shame about being a good athlete and wanting to be better, and then having that taken away from me. And what that did to me was make me want to kick things into overdrive, essentially, with my being the best version of myself that I could be. So I ended up going to the Citadel, which is a military school in South Carolina.
I'm in South Carolina, so I'm very familiar.
and you know very well. And I really did everything that the Citadel had to offer. I embraced it. I loved it. Graduated from there, and then I did not have a military obligation, so I joined at the time the internet security world, which was brand new. This is back in the late 90s. I was part of the dot-com boom. I was a young, hungry salesperson that started as an inside sales rep, and before we knew it, we were making more money than we knew what to do with, quite frankly.
Okay.
I was a millionaire by the time I was 24 years old. And that really, I know that sounds whatever. It doesn't sound good, but it wasn't. It just led to additional expectations down the road and trying to raise the bar and continuing to chase the whatever dream it was. But, so that's really the beginning part of my story. And then, here we are many years later. I decided to, after really a great 27 years in the cybersecurity space, I got to
Wow.
travel all over the world and do business in different cultures and learn different cultures and be that person. That also required me to, to always be on, to be the life of the party, to entertain. That's where alcohol really started to play a negative role in my life, and towards the latter stages of that. And then most recently, over the last couple of years, I decided that enough was enough. I pivoted. I decided to get help, like I said, to achieve sobriety, which I'm so grateful that I have done, and then go back to school to get my degree in licensed mental health counseling from Liberty University so that I can help people the way I received help. Like, I was blessed with so much help during my struggle because no one knew that I was struggling, right? I was wearing the Superman cape, and I did feel alone. And
Yeah.
I wasn't, because I have never been alone. Like, my family would disregard that in a heartbeat, and they should, because I always had the best friends and family supporters. But man, the struggle was tough on trying to keep up with the Joneses, whatever it would be, trying to do this. I was an Ironman athlete at the time. I was trying to race, trying to work. I mean, it's just a lot. And
Yeah.
ended up losing the battle of it. Yeah.
So what was the point where you just said like enough is enough and I have a problem
Yeah.
and I need help?
Yeah, the point came, like I said, it was just over a year ago, probably long overdue, but unfortunately there's a process or a reckoning in everybody's journey, that when they go through something like that, at first I didn't realize the extent of my problem, but last year when I finally, I said enough was enough. Enough was enough. And I was hurting people that, not physically, obviously, but like I was worrying my people, like my mother and my family and my sisters. It was not good. And that's not who I wanted to be. And that was eating at me every day. The compounding interest, if you will, but it was the compounding shame of wanting to be this human. And I was not checking those boxes. I was actually failing at them, and it was crushing me.
Yeah.
And, through the help of some very close people in my life, along with my own inner instinct, I just said enough was enough. And I decided that day, November 7th, 2024, that I'm going to turn my life around. And that's what I did. And
Wow.
how I did it is willpower, is hard work, is determination, all the things, all the buzzwords. I could throw them out there, because
Yeah.
that's what it takes. That's what it
Yeah.
takes.
How do you keep yourself grounded now? Like how do you not
Yeah.
go back into those patterns, because those are behaviors that, I can relate to. I think a lot of people can relate to, especially when you're a high successful entrepreneur and you're operating at a level of, like you said, you sound a lot like me where you're like, I I don't say no. I had the
No.
hard time setting those boundaries. And then eventually you just get to the point where you're like, I can't do this anymore.
Oh, yeah. Well, boundaries are such an important mechanism to the whole recovery process, for sure.
Yeah.
But how I do it is, I mean, people say to me still to this day, because I refer to myself as someone who struggles with addiction or an addict, and I get I've never saw you as an addict. Like, I'm not a drug addict or whatever. That wasn't my problem. Okay, so I'm addicted to finish lines, to quotas, to president's clubs, to making money, to adrenaline rushes, whatever, call it what you want. That's where my addiction is. So I still have that addiction. Yes, I also had it to alcohol, unfortunately. thankfully I was, of the most damaging of them all, I was able to curb that. And meaning I quit over a year ago, but as you know, the journey's never over. So I never say that I quit it. And like that day, that is a day-to-day thing for me, right?
Yeah.
To stay on top of that. And how do I do that is this, like, now I hold myself accountable because I'm helping others get through the same thing.
Yeah.
So I certainly can't go be a devil's advocate and have a couple drinks while I'm telling other people how it almost killed me, right? And
Yeah.
then so yes, it's call it a double-edged sword. Or
With over 26 years of real life experiences as a thriving entrepreneur, I'm here to bring you sophistication, insight, and expertise into every aspect of your life. This is Another Million Miles, where luxury meets authenticity and every step brings you closer to the life that you deserve.
sort of, using one for the other, but I'm going into recovery and
Yeah.
addiction specialties so I can help my own recovery and addiction. And
Yeah.
it's
No,
helpful. It's
that's,
very, very helpful.
I think that that's actually that's a brilliant statement. Is the reason that even wanted to start this podcast is because I am a very authentic person, and I'm also a very successful person. And people think, just like you mentioned, like they see you or perceive you as a certain way. And I love that you are doing podcasts and being vocal about your journey, because it helps people tremendously. And what we said at the beginning of this podcast, you are not alone. It's like so many people feel alone on this journey of life. And
Yeah.
the more that I have been doing podcasting, the more that I have been, even introducing myself into different industries and everything, we all are still human beings. And we all, no matter what walk of life we're coming from, we all struggle with the same things, whether it's the addiction to success, the addiction to money, the addiction to something negative like what we would consider alcohol or drugs or whatever it is. Talking about it and allowing yourself to be that vulnerable and transparent helps so many people.
And the way it helped me, I mean, my first true taste of vulnerability was, my first day at Hazelden, which is where I went to outpatient at Hazelden, which is phenomenal. But my point being is that was my first, because I
And for
walked in, I didn't physically walk in there, but I logged in there and thinking, what am I doing? Just like we all do on our first day. This is not for me. These people don't look like me. They don't talk like me. They don't act like me. And you know what? I love all of them because they were amazing. And they don't have to look like you or talk like you or whatever, because they all struggle like me, me and you, right? And that was the humbling part of it, is like I did not feel alone anymore, because I had that facade that, like, for example, an alcoholic is supposed to look like a certain alcoholic, like guy down there, and then stay away, he stinks. That's not it, right? And then I had the same thing about, which a lot of people do, unfortunately, about going to get help in recovery. I
shame.
had this, well, beyond the shame is like this picture of, like, it's the Vegas version of recovery, where you go into the crowded or the padded room and you're not allowed to have your shoelaces. It's not. It can be so welcoming if depending on what you need. And the people there, that they don't judge. They know what you're going through. And that's the important thing during recovery, is that, relating to someone when they're going through their darkest moments is really, really, really hard to do. Right. And that's kind of what I like to do now, because I've been there, and I want to be that resource for people that didn't have it, because it was so valuable to me. I have one of my best friends is the guy that stepped up for me at the very end. And without that, I don't know which path I would have taken, quite frankly. But
Yeah.
I took the one that he pretty much said you're doing. And hey, if I can steer someone in the right direction, or we can steer someone in the right direction, but that's enough that's enough for me to make it all worth it,
Yeah.
because I got that kind of help. I really did. And it was awesome.
Yeah. So you have had such a massive change in your career now, going from cyber security to coaching and helping other people. Tell me a little bit about that. Tell me a little bit about what you do and your.
Well, I mean, the 27 years in cybersecurity was a life of its own, quite frankly. And there were so many valuable lessons that were learned there. I mean, number one, to start with some of the leaders that I was fortunate to work for. These gentlemen are still out there running some of the biggest companies that are running the internet right now, and the AI companies. But the people that I got to work with, the lessons along the way, the rights and the wrongs, all the things that, especially when it comes to personal satisfaction and desires, I was always chasing high achievement and perfectionism, but was I chasing the right things? And the answer is there's no. It's not that I wasn't always wanting to be a high performer, because I still want to be and I always will be. But having boundaries there is also important, because you can be a very high performer and work smart. You don't have to be addicted to your job. You don't have to wear it, when you come home at night. We have to keep things in perspective.
Yes.
I never did that. My job, I mean, I did to an extent, but it was, if you knew me during my 20s and 30s and early 40s, I was busting my butt. I was a worker.
Yeah.
Was it worth it? Well, I mean, I was well compensated for it and great experience and got to travel the world. Those are all huge benefits.
Yeah.
What I left behind and missed along the way is tough to put a price tag or anything like that on it, but there was a lot. Right? So I think keeping things in perspective, especially when I talk to some of my younger generation clients and they're seeking to climb these huge mountains, I'm not going to discourage them from doing that. I'm actually going to be there pushing them. But they have to take care of themselves along the way. They have to make sure their emotional stability is in check. They have to make sure their family stuff is in check. All that stuff is what is going to be there when the going gets rough, if it does, which it will.
Yeah.
And, I was an Iron Man. I looked healthy. I looked incredibly healthy.
Yeah.
I wasn't healthy. I was burning the candle at both ends.
I totally can relate. I mean, I hear so much of me and you.
There's a lot of us, Danielle.
Yeah, no. And I've been on a 2-year health journey and, like a boundary journey. And, I was doing the same thing. So I can completely relate. The life of the party, the entertaining, the going, traveling the world, putting on shows, doing all of that stuff. It always revolved around social, drinking, eating. You're not sleeping. You have no, literally, you're just,
Early flight,
you're,
long flights,
yep.
bad food.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's things that yes, I look back and I'm like, wow, I was really fortunate to have that in my life. There's also things that I look back and I'm like, I ruined a lot of personal relationships, and not that you can control all of it, but I didn't have those boundaries, and it's a daily practice to continue to maintain those boundaries. And I think you said it earlier too, you're never going to, it is in your DNA to be a successful person. It is in your DNA to push yourself into doing things at a high level, but it is what you also choose to do, I think, is what you're saying. What is actually making you happy and what is making you passionate again, and reigniting that passion and knowing that, I mean, I'm in 45. I'm not sure how old you are, but you can pivot, right? We can pivot into something in our mid to later life that, we really, really, truly find, much more passion for and fulfillment. And I think that keeps us aligned as people as well.
Yeah. And there's a lot of great advice that you said there. And, the pivoting thing is big. A lot of people are afraid to make that decision because there's so much that goes into it with regards to security and financials. And am I good at this? I'll talk a little bit more about my pivot in a moment, but some of the other things you said about, having to, always be on and stuff is so true. That takes such a toll on you. Now, when it comes to pivoting, I don't know, mine happened with a little bit of kind of this outside voice telling me that I was not ready to go back to the life that I was doing after I got out of recovery, which was only, it wasn't, I say, but I did. I went to recovery and committed to it for 12 weeks. And when I was done, I was not ready to get back into that lifestyle. And I was ready to. I was about to take a job, and then I had a reckoning, and it was part of me wants to, or all of me wants to be able to give back. I was a software sales rep for 27 years. I sold massive amounts of deals and with some of the biggest companies in the world. incredibly rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
But I was not giving back to anybody. When people, said to me that during recovery that I kind of had a knack for helping or communicating with people or getting something or engaging, what all these beautiful things that people were saying kind of pushed me down this road of seeing how can I help? How can I give back? I immediately thought, well, I'm 51 years old. There's no way I could do that. I can't start over at this age. And that's not true. Okay. I mean, it's not easy. It takes a commitment, and it takes a lot of things, but what it brings is incredible amounts of happiness and self-fulfillment. And
welcome to another Million Miles, your personal lifestyle concierge with credibility. Here we go beyond surface level advice. We dive deep into transformational insights from experts who set the standard in their fields.
And the reward that I'm looking for is now I feel like I'm doing something worth a cause. I know that I'm helping people. Everything's just coming in amazing full circle for me, which is great. I did mention when we were talking that, all these wonderful things are happening. I'm transforming. I've pivoted. And then this past summer, I get this cancer diagnosis that we talked about. And, it was definitely like oh, shoot. No, it was more than that. It was like, oh, shit. Like, why is this happening? Like, well, all these great things are and it was just another moment for me to have an excuse to go back to old ways and stuff like that. And I was like, hell no, I'm not doing that. So, it's just another example of what the clarity of being sober and fresh and clean and being proud of what I'm doing allowed me to make solid decisions about how to handle the diagnosis and all these things. And that's the other message about, when it comes to pivoting, it's a scary, scary thought process because, who am I? I'm not qualified to be a therapist by any means yet, because I will be soon. And,
Will be soon.
No, I know. Yeah, it's because I will be soon. And I do think I have the tools in my, to give back, but licensed wise, I'll be there soon. So yeah, it's been such an amazing, fulfilling event ever since I decided to make that decision. And that's what it takes. Once you make a decision and you're going to pivot, just like any other major goal, whether it be entrepreneur, Ironman, law school, if you're going to do it, you got to go all in on it. Otherwise, doesn't typically, these things require a lot of passion and hard work.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's so awesome though, that you're doing that. And, you're turning something into, like some people will say, one of my biggest things is I say perfectionism is paralyzing. And to your point earlier, sometimes success, depending on how you look at it, could be a little bit of a curse because you put so much pressure on. You're like, I can't make a mistake. I always fall, I always land on my feet. I can't show vulnerability. And, and I'm sure you can relate. And you did talk about when you went to Hazelton and, you put yourself into those moments. I find that every time I'm able to be vulnerable, I connect on so many deeper levels with people.
Without a
And
doubt.
people aren't looking for perfectionism, but we're wired because of our subconscious and, the way that we have been programmed to think that we have to show up a certain way. I love that you're sharing because
And we do have to show up a certain way now. But it's not being perfect all the time. It's being authentic, I think. And I think that authenticity just goes, because that shows who we truly are, and it brings out the best of us. To be that perfectionist, when you're authentic, doing what you love to do and doing it with the right drive and motivation, perfectionism comes as a byproduct of that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so inspiring. So how do people find you? How do they work with you? What programs do you offer?
Thank you for asking. So I have, like most I have 3 different programs. I love to work with the next generation, our younger entrepreneurs or professionals that haven't faced some of these obstacles that I faced. I have a program specifically designed. My IronMind mentality is designed for young professionals. For my high performers and stuff, it's similar. These people have walked through those storms already, and we're working on, the goals are different. So we're taking apart some of the pieces. Like I just did a transformation, meaning I needed to, you can call it what you want, get back on track, turn my life around. But for me, it was literally to become the person that I had expected myself to be, the best version of myself, minus the perfectionism, because I'm not that, minus the cape, because I don't want to wear it anymore. I wanted to become the best version of myself. And it wasn't the loud drunk or the life of the party. That's not the version. I wanted to be who I knew I was capable of being. And that's what I like to work with professional high achievers on, is that They know they've got it in there already. They know they've been there probably already. And life has these ups and downs or bumps and bruises or changes, and very easy to get back on track. Like someone's problems might seem very difficult to them, but for you and I, we might have to talk to people about them and they're not really that challenging. I can use pivoting, for example. Like that's one of the most daunting tasks anybody can do, especially as a 50-year-old. I'm already facing ageism. I'm already wondering how I'm going to get back into an industry that I've already been dominant in for 25 years, or I'm going to completely shift gears. Those are
Mhm.
some big, big, big decisions.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
the
yeah.
reality of it is the thought process behind it was probably more daunting than actually executing upon it, because people like me, people like you, once we make these decisions, we go and we put the tools in place to make them work.
Yeah.
Right? We don't figure out like, oh, I decided to become a therapist. Now what I do? Oh, what
Yeah.
do I do? I already
Yeah.
knew I had to go to school. I have to do internships. I have to do, field work. It takes 2.5 years. In the
Yeah.
meantime, what can I do? So we have plans because we've thought
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
not, we don't live by the seat of our pants. And so that's what I like to work with our high performers on. And then honestly, I'm an open book when it comes to grief. Unfortunately, I've had to deal with my share. Anybody that wants to walk through a diagnosis, I know cancer can be I do that because I want to be there for people. So my
Yeah.
website is ironmindadvisors.com. It's new. I'm so proud of it.
It's a great website.
Thank you.
With brand background and marketing background, I looked at it and I thought, oh, wow, he has a good website. You have a very good website.
Yeah, I'm trying to take people through the journey. Like I am by no means a master of any of these domains. I'm just someone that wants to share and help. I do believe I provide a lot of value. The website's designed to take you through a journey of the fact that I am new to coaching, but I'm long in knowledge, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I understand that. I think that that's a gift in itself. I meet a lot of coaches. I'm in the coaching space myself. There's coaches that, I've just trained to be coaches. And then there's coaches like you and I that have spent our entire years on earth being
Learning.
trained by our journey. And I think, there's things that I say all the time, I'm like, if I didn't do that, if I didn't, have to go to Indonesia by myself and, throw a show on for 2,000 people, if I didn't have to run a salon, if I didn't have to have employees, like I would not know how to do any of that stuff and coach anyone on that. So the life's gifts and the journey that you've gone through is, and honestly, probably more valuable than any degree or any book you could read or any material that you could study on how to coach people. So I think anyone out there listening, working with someone such as Kenny, who has experienced it all and has, had the success and has had the ups and downs, I think that, in my opinion, and I'm not a therapist or licensed therapist either, but I do know that those are some of the most valuable people that I've connected with through life, are the people that have actually walked.
Yeah, I mean, it's a perspective that's invaluable. Unfortunately, it takes some bumps and bruises to figure out like how to get through that particular moment, but lived experience is huge. I know I put a lot of value into it. I hire coaches for a lot of different things. That this is life in general is one of them. And I do enjoy the educational side of it as well, because that provides a component of it that is in addition. Like I'm learning so much about myself and my growth through the development phases of life and why some of these things may or may not have happened. And combined with the lived experience, it provides a unique perspective that I'm, like I said, I'm very happy to share.
Well, thank you again, Kenny, for taking the time to
My pleasure.
share your journey. It's been honestly such a
We'll have to do it again. We need
Yeah.
more time.
I would love that. I would love that.
Absolutely.
That is a wrap on another episode of Another Million Miles. Huge thanks to Kenny for sharing his powerful insights and strength with us today. I know we've covered some heavy, but really honestly essential ground, I think, from mindset shifts to building resilience when life pushes back. And if this episode resonated with you at all, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with somebody that you believe needs to hear this. And until we get back on next next time, live the most fabulous life that you can. So thank you again. I can't wait to bring the next story of strength, growth, and transformation. And until then, stay strong.
Thank you for joining me on another Million Miles, where luxury and authenticity meet to enrich your journey. This is another Million Miles, and I'll see you on the path ahead in our next episode. Until then, keep embracing the journey, savoring each moment, keep dreaming big and moving closer to the life you envisioned, and traveling afar.